All right. What is up? What is up, fellas? We are live from Buffalo. We are tackling some playoff best ball drafts. We'll do our best to get to a lot of comments as well. Basically, what we're doing here for you guys, maybe if you're watching this after the fact, Underdog Fantasy sent us here to Buffalo. We're doing a number of these best ball drafts. If you guys are unfamiliar, I broke down an entire video talking about what playoff best ball is earlier today. You can go check it out. Also, we're doing a massive giveaway for those of you guys that haven't yet taken the leap. Maybe you want to see what these best ball drafts are all about first. But if you do decide that you want to join in on some of the fun, using that promo code FSC at sign up and first deposit on Underdog Fantasy, you'll be entered for a chance to win one of 5 $50 free site credits. And we're not a very big YouTube channel, so you guys know what's good. You guys have a pretty good chance of winning that. All you have to do, follow the directions in the description that are linked down below, and also we'll link it somewhere in the chat as well, the link that we got to use. So as people file in, obviously, we'll start to kick off these drafts. If you guys are already in here, you want to ask some fantasy questions, by all means, go ahead. We'll get ourselves entered into a draft very, very soon. I will queue up the fantasy lobby right now. If you guys have Underdog Fantasy accounts already, feel free to join us. We'll probably get these going ASAP. So then as people file in here, they get to the idea of what we're kind of doing here. So we're going Chrome tab.
I'll pull up the stream on one of my tabs because it might be easier that we both have access to it.
Yeah, for sure. I can see it pretty well too, though. So, all right. So we have the Gauntlet is the contest that we will be doing. It's $25 entry. Basically, the top prize goes $100K to first place. Also, let us know, by the way, if you guys can sound stuff. If we sound weird or whatever, let us know. We'll get that stuff fixed up. But we're going to enter some of these drafts. We'll get to some of your guys' comments, start sits, all that kind of stuff. We'll be going for, I don't know, an hour and a half, probably 4 of these drafts.
We'll try to get a few of them out there for you guys. Obviously, again, we're in Buffalo. We got to rip these drafts. You guys want the content. You guys are getting ready for the playoffs. And, you might see some Cowboys built teams from me. I'm just saying.
Yeah. So Steven was the first one in here. He says, what's up, guys? What's going on? Pionio says, start one running back, one flex, mix in ETN, Garrett Wilson. Again, we haven't looked too in depth with this week's matchups quite yet. We're going to get into all that stuff once we get back.
Obviously, again, the Jaguars and the Jets play each other tomorrow night. So I know that one off by heart. In terms of mixing, who would the Bengals play? I mean, I guess
the Bengals play the Patriots.
I mean, you would know that off the spreadsheet. If you guys are unfamiliar, obviously, Corey dropped the playoff best ball strategy video today. Link to the spreadsheet. Corey basically mapped out the potential pathings for a lot of the contending teams. So if you guys want to know, you're drafting a lot of Vikings, who would you typically want to stack them with in terms of other teams? Drafting a lot of, Bengals, who do you want to stack? And so that you get the most optimal pathing towards potentially advancing your guys' teams to the final where all the money is.
Yeah, exactly. So make sure you guys check that out. We will get this draft kicked off. So for those of you guys that have Underdog accounts, like I said, all you have to do to be a part of this draft, if you guys want to join up, is go on the enter thing here. And where it says yes, I'll give you guys like a couple seconds if you're waiting to get in, and just click yes at the same time. I will. I'm sure Danny beside me is going to get in this draft as well. And we'll kind of talk through some strategy as well, try and get to some of your questions. Again, if you guys haven't taken the plunge to try out these drafts, they are a ton of fun.
Trust.
And you get to, watch us to do a couple first if you're on the fence. And like I said, if you want to get involved in these and you haven't yet signed up on Underdog, you can use that promo code FSC and be entered for the giveaway, which will end on Christmas Day, like I said. So FSC on the road, Smooth Criminals in here. Love to see it. Again, pick one: Garrett Wilson, Swift, Montgomery, ETN, PPR. As of right now, again, I don't know the matchups off the top of my head, so start sit questions will be better saved for later on in the week. But I will say off the top of my head, probably Garrett Wilson's my lenience there in a PPR league. He's probably got the most PPR upside.
Absolutely going to be Garrett Wilson there for me, especially on the road against the Jaguars this week. Obviously, we know the Jaguars' offense for the most part has been balling out. Their defense has still been susceptible to opposing offenses. I do think that game, obviously the Jets have a tough defense, but the way the Jaguars offense has been playing, I do think that could be a sneaky upside game in terms of potential points.
Yeah. So we are currently waiting for 3 people. Like I said, if you guys
have
an
account. I'm in 2 right now.
Okay. So you're in a different draft?
It put me in a different draft, but I just joined up ours as well.
Okay. Sounds good. So Danny will be in here as well. If you guys have an account, by all means, join up there. We got Will Clayton in here, DPJ, Zach Moss, or Deion Jackson, half PPR. Ugh, kind of a gross decision that he's got here. I'm probably going to go Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, you got to go DPJ there.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Moss and Deion Jackson, we really don't know what the split's going to be. We saw Zach Moss get the majority of the carries, like right off the rip, but it was a very favorable game script for a guy like Zach Moss, who's more of like your bruiser type of running back. By the time JT got injured, they were already up like 17 points or whatever, 33-point lead at half, and most of his snaps 31-9. I believe he outsnapped Deion Jackson in the second half, trying to salt the game away. So I would say, in a game script, typically with the Indianapolis Colts, who are a bad team, we're not going to see them leading by that many points most of the time. So I would say DPJ is probably your safer play from that perspective. Stevens, who would you start between Garrett Wilson, Walker, Higgins, and Keenan Allen pick 2? So Walker's playing the Chiefs. I know that. Bengals against the Patriots. Chargers, I can't remember who they're playing off the top of my head at this moment. I think they play an easy match. I think it's like the Colts or something like that. So I'd probably be rolling. It's tough, man. I think Walker's in a great spot, just given they're probably going to need to score points, but it could be a bad game script for the run. I would say, again, it's probably too early in the week to be starting answer and start sit questions definitively. But as of right now, I probably lean with Keenan Allen and Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
What do we do? Okay, so we are actually on the clock. So the draft has started. I'm on the clock. To me, at this spot, there's a lot of debate at the top of the draft because, I mean, these QBs obviously have very high ceilings on a weekly basis. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts. The only issue is which one of these quarterbacks is playing in round 1 in the wild card round, because the way these contests work, you need to advance your team beyond the first round. And in the gauntlet, which is the draft that we're doing, only 1 out of the 6-man league that you're drafting with will advance, versus in the mitten, 2 of the 6 teams advance. But you don't know if Allen will have the bye on the AFC side or if Mahomes will have the bye on the AFC side. Right now, it's a 50% chance that the Buffalo Bills have the bye because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker over Kansas City, or 41% chance that the Kansas City Chiefs have the bye. And Jalen Hurts, who you took at 4, is almost guaranteed to have a bye in the first round. So you have to kind of plan accordingly, draft a second quarterback, probably draft up some first round type of advance rate type of players if you want to go far with that Jalen Hurts team, because the ultimate goal of this contest is to predict the Super Bowl winner or Super Bowl participants, have as many bullets in the chamber during that Super Bowl week as you can. And I'll pull up right now what the scoring settings are, the roster construction settings, because you need to kind of know this in these contests. So you're going to be starting, I'm going to try and find it here. You're going to be starting, like I said, it goes all 4 rounds of the playoffs. It's like a half PPR format. You're starting 1 quarterback on a given week, 1 running back on a given week, 2 wide receivers / tight ends, and 1 flex option plus your 5 bench pieces. So, for example, if Danny, who drafted
Stephon Diggs.
but you drafted Jalen Hurts, so you're not going to get those points in round 1. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb here.
Nice pick. Pretty much you'll notice in these drafts that for the most part, any order of the top 3 typically ends up being Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, and Jalen Hurts, as you guys can see. We did see a Christian McCaffrey go off the board, just too rich for my taste. If I can get him at a little bit of a value, maybe the 6-7 turn, so be it there. But even in terms of non-quarterbacks, like a guy like Travis Kelce, a guy like Stephon Diggs, I feel like have much easier paths towards potentially making their championship game, potentially the Super Bowl. And with McCaffrey, I mean, there's just so many good NFC running backs. Like you're talking about Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott from the Cowboys, Miles Sanders from the Eagles. It seems a bit rich to invest that type of capital into Christian McCaffrey when, as we know, I mean, Brock Purdy, unproven quarterback, top 4 overall pick on a running back, just seems a little bit too steep for me.
Yeah, and I'm back on the clock here. Tony Pollard fell to me, so pretty easy to stack him up with CeeDee Lamb. Again, the ultimate goal of this tournament is to have as many bullets in the chamber come the Super Bowl week as you possibly can. For me, you need an AFC team, an NFC team that you're kind of looking towards, the typical builds that we're looking for, grabbing a couple players from each team, 3 potentially, 4 potentially, depending on how the board kind of falls to you. So for me, Patrick Mahomes being my main quarterback, I don't know if he's going to be on bye week. I don't know if he's going to be playing in week 1 for sure, but I'm definitely going to stack him up with an NFC team like the Cowboys, who I know is going to be playing in that first week and also has a decent chance of making a playoff run, which is kind of back to your point about the McCaffrey thing. It's like, yeah, McCaffrey, if he makes a playoff run, if the 49ers go far in the playoffs, will be awesome and will be absolutely worth that pick. But how many games is Brock Purdy going to win in the NFL playoffs, right? If he's playing against, the Seattle Seahawks and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 2 teams that he's beaten so far, and then the end of that Dolphins game, it's one thing to beat those kind of like, those guys are like fringe playoff teams. Some of them will be in the playoffs for sure, but it's different when you're going up against, potentially the Eagles or the Cowboys on the NFC side, maybe the Vikings, who are just better overall teams. So that's kind of the balancing act that comes with picking Christian McCaffrey is however many games you get him for, he's going to be great, but how many games are you going to get him?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, exactly. You nailed the head on the hit the nail on the head there. Also, in terms of Jalen Hurts, the reason being there, obviously, we know he's going to make it to the bye week. Bush did mention there is a little bit of a risk there because we're not getting him for round 1, and you need to be the highest scoring team out of your pool to advance to round 2 anyway. So for the most part, if you're taking a guy like Jalen Hurts, or if you're taking, a Buffalo/KC quarterback, aka, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, you're going to have to understand that you're going to have to balance that inherent upside, that top end ceiling for potentially advancing with some immediate production, because obviously you need to fill in for that week in case they do miss. So I'm back on the clock here. Sorry, I'm tangling 2 drafts at once if I was a little bit quiet. But looking at this right now, obviously I have Hurts, Diggs, and Devontae Smith. I see that Gabe Davis gives me a lot of correlation here, potentially building a Philadelphia versus Buffalo Super Bowl, which, as you guys would have known if you watched the video, is a very, very likely standpoint, or very, very likely scenario, given the fact that Buffalo has the highest implied odds on the AFC, Eagles having the highest implied odds on the NFC. The only risk I run here is if Buffalo does get the 1 seed, which I do think KC could potentially backdoor and get that from them. But if Buffalo does get the 1 seed, this team is going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage, or a big disadvantage, if you will, because I'm going to typically be building 3 from the Bills, 3 from the Eagles. If they both have the bye week, you guys do the math. That's only 4 players to fill up 5 spots.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the balancing act, because if you look back on the teams that won this last year, right, the best team that won it last year, Eagles was one of the mitten winners. And he had, just a mega stack of Rams and Bengals. And obviously that was a Super Bowl matchup. But the unique thing about last year's Super Bowl versus, prior year's Super Bowl or different year's Super Bowl is that neither of the 1 seeds from either conference made the Super Bowl. So the Titans last year, we knew they were kind of a weaker 1 seed. The Packers got bounced in the first round. This year, in my opinion, we think these 1 seeds are a lot more strong, a lot better equipped to go on a long playoff run. To me, I think the Eagles are the class of the NFC. Definitely, in my opinion, the best team, if not, guaranteed one of the top 3 teams. And then same goes for the AFC side of things. We think the Bills and the Chiefs are probably the class of that division, of that conference. Maybe you think, the Bengals could go on a run again, or, the Ravens could go on a run again, or maybe, some of these sneakier teams like the Chargers or the Dolphins or something like that. But for the most part, I think a team like Danny's, where you have Buffalo Bills and Philadelphia Eagles stacked, they're hard to get out of round 1, but if you can get them out of round 1, you're going to be very, very well set up. So I'm actually going to grab another San Francisco 49er here. And the reason I'm going to do that, so you guys can see my team there, I have Patrick Mahomes, Tony Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, and George Kittle. Now, the reason I didn't stack up really any Kansas City Chiefs on top of Patrick Mahomes is because I kind of missed out on, Kelsey. Obviously, he goes really early, and I missed out on Juju Smith-Schuster. And the other thing too is because the Kansas City Chiefs are expected to be on bye potentially, I'm probably going to go a little bit lighter on them and a little heavier on the Cowboys, just knowing that I'm going to have my Cowboys in the first round guaranteed. And also I went with the 49ers too there because they're very unlikely to play the Cowboys at any point in the playoffs, because the Cowboys are currently the 5 seed. If things go as expected, the way that the implied odds are, according to Vegas, we expect the Cowboys to probably beat the Buccaneers in the first round, and the 49ers Eagles and Vikings to probably win against the, as it currently stands, the Giants and Commanders, but probably more likely the Giants and Lions.
Yep.
Then you're going to get a Cowboys, Eagles second round, and you'll probably avoid the Niners and Cowboys crossing paths unless some crazy shit happens and some upset happens. So I think it's pretty safe to stack up those 2 teams. I'm back on the board here. I have Michael Gallup and Dalton Schultz on the board, which kind of stand out to me as good options. I do have Isaiah Pacheco, who slid to me. So I'm going to grab him as my second running back. In terms of roster construction, I would say most of these teams, the best way to build out your roster is, 1 or 2 quarterbacks. I would say for the most part, 2 quarterbacks is what I'm leaning with, but you can definitely go with 1 if you know for sure that guy's not going to be on a bye week. For example, if you grab a Dak Prescott, who we know is not in possession of a 1 seed, so we won't be on a bye. I like going, 2 to 3 running backs, 2 to 4 running backs max, and then, 5 pass catchers or so there as well. So I'm back on the board here. I'm probably just going to grab Dalton Schultz with my next pick here, so that I can get another Cowboy. So in this hypothetical scenario where I have a Chiefs-Cowboys Super Bowl, I have Patrick Mahomes, I have Tony Pollard, Isaiah Pacheco, CeeDee Lamb, and Dalton Schultz. So that's a 5-man roster. I can field a full roster, and if those end up being the high-scoring players, then obviously I could take down that big prize. But maybe I might add another, Chief into the mix just because it's, not a guarantee that they have a first-round bye. So I could probably
100%.
afford to take one more shot.
Yeah, no, you basically covered it all there. For my team, as you guys see, I do add Saquon Barkley there. Corey kind of mentioned it, but I'm, for the most part, again, yeah, I run the risk that if the Giants do win, they face Philadelphia in the second round, because obviously they would be the 6th seed in that scenario. Philadelphia, the 1 seed. And unless, the Lions won, for example, they would most likely face Philadelphia. However, at this current point, 7th round, you're getting the elite upside that Saquon Barkley represents in any given matchup, elite volume. I do need players to contribute in week 1 because of my heavy Philadelphia and Buffalo build. Obviously, here I'm hoping that Buffalo potentially falls from the 1 to the 2 seed. If you guys watch the video, you would see that the comparative schedule from the Bills to the Chiefs definitely favors the Chiefs down the stretch. The Bills still have to play on the road against the Cincinnati Bengals, which could drop them from their current number 1 standing to number 2. So
they play the Patriots too, for what it's worth, and that's not a gimme of a game.
Yeah, like in this scenario, I'm clearly hoping that they do fall to the 2 seed, so I have some more upside for my team. But I'm back on the clock here, 8th round pick. I could use another receiver. I'm potentially going to go with one. Mark Andrews kind of stands out to me. Followed a little bit past ADP. Obviously, I just want that elite upside in week 1 because I do think I have enough, favorite talent to make it to potentially the Super Bowl, at least the championship game. So overall, I mean, not the best team that I've ever built, but I do think that given the strength of the Eagles, given the strength of the Bills, this one could potentially work out for me. If I get a Saquon Barkley usable week 1, I add one more quarterback to get me over the Hurts bye. And, my receivers like Mark Andrews and potentially the 2 Bills, if they don't get the bye, do perform for me.
Yeah, and I grabbed J.K. Dobbins, filled out my 3rd running back spot. I think with J.K. Dobbins, you're probably not going to run into the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC side of things. That would be kind of like hard pressed for that to happen. So I think that's probably a safe guy to go with. I could cover my own ass here.
Don't go Lamar.
In case I won't go Lamar because Danny clearly is looking for him because he has Mark Andrews. So I could have gone Lamar there potentially. Maybe I should have grabbed Mostert instead and gone with Tua, but I'm actually going to go back to the wide receiver position because Michael Gallup is still on the board. And even though I already have a lot of Cowboys, I think that's kind of just a way, to stack up that Super Bowl even more. If it does end up being Cowboys and Chiefs, then I have a 4 stack of Cowboys: Pollard, Lamb, Dalton Schultz, and Michael Gallup. And then I'd have Patrick Mahomes and Isaiah Pacheco as well. And maybe I could even still take another Chiefs player, but probably going to stick to maybe another Ravens player or a 49er or something like that, or maybe like a one-off other AFC type of option as well. So once this draft is concluded, we'll go back to some questions and then, wait for the next draft to fill. And we're going to keep doing this because these contests are not, and we're kind of just figuring this out on the fly right now. We can't do slow drafts and we're only in Buffalo tonight. So we got to basically shred as many of these as we possibly can because in Ontario, we're not actually allowed to draft these teams. So we're just going to keep ripping through these. Again, we'll get to as many questions as we can, rip through some of them in between drafts. But like I said, if you guys are, kind of seeing the picture, seeing what the rationale is, again, I went really, really in depth in that playoff best ball strategy video. So I would encourage you to watch that video before you even do any of these drafts. Maybe take some notes, jot a couple things down, use the spreadsheet that I talked about in there and get an idea, because when you're doing these drafts, it's hard because there's so many scenarios playing through your head. You're like, oh man, I took a Kansas City Chiefs player. They could have a bye week. If they do have a bye week, do I do this? There's a lot to think about. So having kind of like a resource is really helpful for sure.
For sure. I do close out my draft with DeAndre Swift there. Just wanted some more immediate upside. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Swift offer me potentially a running back 1 slot. Obviously, only have to start running back, but the other one could potentially fill in my flex. Obviously, as you guys can see, it's going to be tough for my wide receiver core to fill in that flex. If, God forbid, the Eagles and Bills were on bye, I would be absolutely screwed. But again, I'm playing it for the upside here. I'm playing it for the Bills potentially getting the 2 seed. And if this does happen, I mean, if I get Buffalo Bills on opening weekend, I'm excited about the potential future of this team.
Yeah, and I closed out my last pick with Mike Williams, a high upside guy, in case I have, some underperforming guys in week 1. I'm basically assuming that Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs will not be on bye with this team because I only drafted 1 quarterback. Now, That's the distinction, because we're drafting in week 16 or before week 16's games. We don't know certain things that some people might know if they draft their team in week 17 or week 18, because maybe the Bengals have lost or have beaten the Buffalo Bills, and we know Kansas City is going to have a first-round bye for some of those teams that are drafting at that point in time. That's obviously something you got to risk with drafting early versus drafting later on. Sometimes 100%. You get better values if you draft early and you predict correctly, but sometimes you have dead teams if you draft early and you predict incorrectly.
Yeah, I mean, you run a lot more risk, obviously, inherently. If you don't know the playoff picture that's fully set at this current juncture, yeah, you're taking a bit of risk that say, for example, I load up on, some Jaguars or some Lions and they don't eventually make the playoffs, then I'm out, those players, those drafts are probably done. Those drafts are probably dead. However, if you're drafting right now, if you can have the foresight to potentially predict, the Lions getting the 7 seed or the Jaguars usurping the Titans for the 4 seed, then you can kind of see and spot these tiny little pockets of value in ADP. And again, I mean, both of them present upside. Both of them are real contenders to potentially get an upside in the first round. On the Lions side, I mean, this is a high-powered offense, 6-1 down the stretch in their last 7 games. They've been the number 2 offense in the NFL since week 7 behind the Dallas Cowboys. Like, they have been a legit scary offense. A team that just beat the Minnesota Vikings recently would play the Minnesota Vikings if they get the 7th seed in the first round. That's a team that I want to target because, again, they're going, 8th, 9th, 10th round. You're talking about a league-winning caliber player like Amon St. Brown, a really solid running back one that goes in the 10th round like DeAndre Swift. That gives you value there. And then on the flip side with the Jacksonville Jaguars, I mean, the way Trevor Lawrence has been playing, the way the offense has been playing, one spot behind the Tennessee Titans with an easier comparable schedule down the stretch. Also, by the way, still having to play the Tennessee Titans one more time. I do think that right now, say you're getting them rounds 8 to 10, you might have to take a Trevor Lawrence round 5 by the time the playoff starts. You might have to take a Travis Etienne like round 4 to round 6. Like, you're going to have to take these guys later and closer to the playoffs, a lot closer to where their actual ADP value lands with that certainty factor indeed fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why if you know the playoff scenarios now, you can take advantage of some people maybe not knowing the playoff scenarios and making unnecessary mistakes because they don't know what the rest of the season schedule is for. And that's what basically that spreadsheet was made for, so that you're 100%. Able to do that. I'm going to just show my exposure real quick just to show you guys some of the best, players that I've been drafting. So for me, and it's understandable because in the gauntlet, you have to come in first place in the first round. So I'm getting a lot of Philadelphia Eagles because people are scared to draft Jalen Hurts. Now, I'm kind of confident in my own drafting ability that I'm able to, if I build out, let's say, a Jalen Hurts, and it looks like I'm getting a lot of Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders as well, I'm usually not going to stack up 4 or 5 Philadelphia Eagles because I know it's unlikely for me to advance if I have 5 Philadelphia Eagles on my roster. But what I am doing is if I get, let's say, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and A.J. Brown, or Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, or whatever the case is, maybe I'll build like a 3-stack of Eagles. I personally just think, for my own football watching experience this year, that the Eagles are the class of the NFC, and I think they are the most likely team, and the odds would dictate that they are as well from the NFC to go to the Super Bowl. So if people are going to be scared and squeamish about the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm just going to continue to snatch up all that value and keep taking Philadelphia Eagles players because I just think that they have the best chance to go to the Super Bowl. So I'm going to plan accordingly. And like I said, this year to me is different from last year. This year, I think the 1 seeds, whoever they end up being in the AFC, whether it's Kansas City or Buffalo and Philadelphia, most likely 99% chance that they are the 1 seed. On the NFC side, I think they are much stronger than the NFC.
Absolutely.
The NFC Green Bay Packers 1 seed last year and the AFC Tennessee Titans. So I don't think we're going to see what we saw last year, which was the 3 seed Los Angeles Rams or the 4 seed Los Angeles Rams.
The 4 seed Rams against the 4 seed Bengals in the Super Bowl last year. I will say though, I think the 1 seeds are stronger comparatively, but I still think that those tier 2 teams, tier 1.5 for the most part, like I personally don't view the NFC as, head and shoulders above the rest. I do think that the top 3 teams for the most part are going to be at bat. I do think that the Eagles have the strongest chance, again, given the bye week, given their body of work, but I still think, the San Francisco 49ers, the Dallas Cowboys could potentially make a run. The Lions can get an upset on the Minnesota Vikings. There's some chaos to be had. However, I do agree that the top 6 to 7 teams for the most part in the NFL period are most likely going to be the teams that are represented in the Super Bowl. Like, I don't see, a fairy tale Bengals run from last year where 12.5% chance to make the playoffs at this current point. You're taking them in the last rounds of your draft, and then all of a sudden, hey, they're in the Super Bowl. Like, I don't think, as much as I like the Lions, as much as I like the Jaguars, that they realistically have a ceiling past maybe the divisional round.
Right, and that's the same thing that we could have said for the 49ers last year, too, who didn't make the Super Bowl, but they did make the NFC Championship. And that, in this format, that's 3 of the 4 rounds that you need, because they don't have to win the NFC Championship for you to get those points. So the fact that the 49ers were the 6th seed, beat the 3 seed Dallas Cowboys, and got through to the divisional round, beat the 1 seed Green Bay Packers, and then eventually lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Not only did we see that on the AFC with the Cincinnati Bengals 4 seed, we saw it on the NFC side with the 49ers. And I personally think because these drafts are relatively new and we don't have a lot of data around them, I think people are really going to focus on what worked last year and draft a lot of 4 and 5 seed type of teams. And I personally just don't think that's how the NFL landscape is going to play out in the playoffs this year. So I think the Eagles players are coming at a discount, and you're just going to have to figure it out. You're just going to have to find a way to advance those teams. And if you can, then they can definitely pay off big time. Because if you can somehow get, 5 players in the Super Bowl for the 1 seed Chiefs versus the 1 seed Philadelphia Eagles, it's going to be huge, or the 1 seed Bills or whatever it ends up being. So
100%. So we'll quickly get to some comments, obviously, with that draft being done. So, if you guys were watching patiently, we'll get to you. So first comment here from Steven.
We already answered that one.
We did? Okay,
that was
perfect.
Walker and Keenan Allen. Gibby says, what do you do with Kamara in the offseason for Dynasty? He's got a lot of young assets, and he's the odd one out.
Got to sell him.
Yeah, so personally, it's all going to depend on your league market. I think a lot of league markets, for the most part, that I play in at least, would recognize that Kamara is a very declining asset, and you'd be lucky to get a 2024 second-round pick for him. Honestly, I do think in most of the leagues that I play in, you're not getting anywhere close to first-round capital for him. You would have gotten that last year, most likely, which is why I made that video talking about selling running backs, because we haven't seen totally that entire 2017 draft class completely crater, but the class as a whole has declined, right? Because if you think of a guy like McCaffrey, I would say his value is relatively similar to what it was last year, even though he's a year older, because he was able to stay healthy.
Yeah.
But versus a guy like Kamara, who's clearly declined as a player and as a fantasy asset, and a guy like Dalvin Cook, who's been pretty solid for fantasy, but raw efficiency wise has declined a little bit.
Leonard Fournette,
Joe Mixon as well.
Yeah.
Those guys have declined from the perspective that I kind of talked about. So these guys in Dynasty, man, it's really tough. That's why I said you got to sell these guys before you're caught holding the bag, because you might be caught holding the bag on Alvin Kamara. And if you were a competitive team this year, maybe that was a risk you were willing to take. But for me, if you could have transitioned into a 2023 first-round pick, delayed your winning window by a year, and then add a young rookie into that mix, then you're probably well set up going forward. But, that's something that you have to take into account with Kamara. If you can get any kind of first-round capital, he's off my team. Yeah, no questions asked, 2023 or 2024.
Even if you have to add a 2 to get it done, so be it. Go get that capital. Within a year that it's probably likely Kamara is going to be in Leonard Fournette status, James Conner status. The way he's looked this year, the way that offense looked, no first round pick. It's going to be really, really rough for him to realistically return top 15 level value next year. And if you're barely getting possibly top 15 value from a 28-year-old running back in terms of production, Ezekiel Elliott is probably worth just as much as Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, realistically, because at least Ezekiel Elliott was giving you RB2 type of numbers this year. And that's, not a lot, but it's better than what Kamara's kind of given you outside of the one blow up game that he had. So it's definitely not great for Kamara. Hopefully maybe you can get it done for a young receiver of some kind. Somebody doesn't believe in a Jahan Dotson, just offload him for something of value, I would say, is probably my advice. Nate says, what's good, guys? Got a beat to Caden this week. We firing up Lamar ahead of either Rodgers or Geno, all of cupcake matchups. Lamar is probably not going to play.
I don't think he's going to play.
Yeah.
Either.
If he does, I would definitely start him over
Rodgers.
Yeah. And I would say Geno is the guy that you're starting because he's playing the Kansas City Chiefs. He's probably going to play in from behind. I would say Lamar and Geno is what I go with there, but I don't think Lamar is going to play. So I think you're stuck with Rodgers and Geno. Which draft? That was a gauntlet draft.
Yep.
So gauntlet drafts. Those are the $25 entries. Mittens are the $5 entries where, and again, the only distinction in the mitten drafts, 2 out of 6 in your first wildcard round team will advance versus the gauntlet is 1 out of 6. So again, in those drafts, varying levels of strategy. In the mitten drafts, I believe Jalen Hurts and those Eagles players go off the board a little bit higher as a result, because you only need to advance as a top 2 seed rather than the number 1 overall seed. So what's going on? Leonardo, Michael L's in here, 10-man super flex PPR dynasty. He traded Alec Pierce and the 205 for Tom Brady. Not the best value move. Definitely not.
No,
but
I would have rather traded for more of a stopgap type of player.
Cousins or Carr would have been better than
sure. Realistically, that's probably
those guys are also, for what it's worth, giving you better win now production than Tom Brady anyway right now.
Yeah, and even if you didn't want to pay that much, you probably have to spend a 3rd round pick for a guy like Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, or Brock Purdy.
Yeah,
somebody like that. Maybe
something like that.
Zach Wilson, maybe only worth a 3rd round pick right now, and he's starting.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he's a young quarterback. I just personally, you sunk a 205 and a young receiver who's shown some promise.
For a guy who might retire.
And not only that, it's not like he's giving – if Tom Brady was giving you every week top 6 quarterback appeal like he was in 2020 and he was in 2021, then I can stomach the move a little bit more because maybe you win the championship and it's all worthwhile.
Yeah.
But Tom Brady's not even giving you like Derek Carr production right now. Like he's a 45-year-old win now quarterback that won't help you win now. So yeah. To me, I think he's kind of just worthless on the open market at the moment until things change.
Agreed. What are you guys doing? I like the sleepover vibes. Yeah, I appreciate that. We're currently live in Buffalo. Obviously, going on a little trip, getting these drafts out for you guys. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. If you guys don't already know, 5 potential winners of $50 on Underdog credit. So if you guys haven't entered, make sure you do so. In order to enter, Corey, I'll let you take it away, but he posted on the playoff best ball video on how to do so.
Yeah, so it's in the pinned comment, promo code FSE at sign up and first deposit, 100% deposit match back for using our code. And as a result, you'll also be entered into that contest. We are a very small YouTube channel. You guys have a very good chance of winning that. And the contest will go from Tuesday to Christmas Day. So as long as you sign up before then, you'll be entered into that. And like I said, you probably have like a 50% chance of winning, if not higher than that. So definitely that is what we're going through. I'll rip through a couple more of these comments and then we will rip right over to another draft. G says he got bounced from the first round. His squad was Lamar, Deshaun, K9, Saquon, Swift, Zeke, etc. And then rounding it, you had a really good team, man. Definitely sucks that you got bounced in the first round. Looks like just some bad performances from guys like Barkley and Swift and Kenneth Walker, and some of those guys just had a little bit of down performances. Definitely not ideal. Yep. He said, definitely disappointing with such a high-end roster for sure.
With McSorley starting a bad weather game on Thursday and Khalil Herbert possibly active, pick 2 full PPR. ETN, Hopkins, Montgomery. I'm still going with the first 2 pretty easily there.
I'm on board with that as well.
Yep. In a weird spot, start to Devontae Smith, Zach Moss, Donovan Knight, Akers, and Drake London. Worried about Hurts not playing and Smith misses big. Like if Devontae Smith doesn't play and you're worried about Jalen Hurts missing, sure, go London and Donovan Knight.
I think he's just worried about Hurts not playing for Smith's sake. I don't think Smith is injured.
No. I know that's what I meant. Like if Hurts plays, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If you're worried about Hurts potentially not playing, affecting Devontae Smith's production, obviously tough defense. It's going to be harder for him with Gardner Minshew slinging in the Barack. I would go with Donovan Knight and Drake London in that instance. However, again, if you're fine with it, I would
still go Smith even with Minshew, to be honest. I think he's still my best option here.
I would probably agree with that. However, I did at least see a flash that Drake London did command the targets that I expected him to last week. We expect Desmond Ridder to bounce back. However, I'd probably still lean with Devontae Smith, given the strength of that Eagles offense, even without Hurts. I would probably go with Donovan Knight with the other one, assuming he's fully healthy.
Jaguars.
Yeah, very easy matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, we know what they can do from the offensive standpoint. However, their defense has been a little bit shaky, to say the least. And if the Jets are going to move the ball until Zach Wilson shows me that he can lead it from a pass-first perspective, I think Donovan Knight is going to be the one handling 20 touches in this game.
Yeah, and I mean, for what it's worth, Akers did look a lot better on Monday night than he's looked in recent weeks, but I'm probably not going to be willing to trust that just with that offense. It's a Baker Mayfield-led offense with a running back who's averaged like 3 yards a carry this year.
Hey, boys, how long have y'all been live? Just about a half an hour. We're actually going to be starting up another draft, just getting through these last few comments.
Brock is, I know he has an Underdog account because he's asking about it. So if you want to join up, Brock, we will get this going right now, and then while we're waiting for it to fill, we'll probably answer the remaining questions on the screen, and then we'll get right into this. So for those of you guys just joining us, we're doing a gauntlet draft. If you have an Underdog account already, feel free to just hit enter here, and then I'll give you a couple seconds here, and then we're just going to click on yes, and then the draft will fill up. If you don't have an Underdog account, you just kind of want to see what we're doing, again, feel free to stick around and watch. Like I said, we are running a giveaway if you want to check it out, but I'm clicking on the draft, we are entering it, and then we'll get back to some of these comments here. So by the way, the payouts were paid upon advancement to the quarterfinals, so you would have gotten your semifinals payouts. You get them at the beginning of the week. You don't get them after the week is over, is how it works. Because I remember I had this issue last year with Hayden, and I asked him for the playoff best ball, how did the payouts work? And that's what he told me. So, Goon Boy, what's going on? Mark Andrews, Dolchich, or Juwan Johnson? I mean, Andrews is still Andrews. I know he's been, not as good recently, but he doesn't belong in this decision.
One more available spot in the draft, so whoever wants it, feel free to do so, and then the draft will be able to initiate.
Yeah. L. Holves, thanks, boys. Been a huge help for me this year. Yeah, appreciate it.
Anytime, brother.
Hopefully you're going on to your semifinal matchup, and you can bring home the chip. Gentlemen, I need help this week. Full PPR, sit 3. So Devontae Smith, Rashad White, Fournette, Gabe Davis, Kamara, Zay Jones, and Amari Cooper. So we got to sit 3 of these guys.
Fournette, Davis, and Zay Jones.
Yeah, Zay Jones, really tough matchup against the Jets. Potentially weather-impacted game as well. I'm definitely on board with that one. Kamara's been bad, but I still think I would start him over a guy like Gabe Davis, who just simply doesn't really get the targets on a consistent basis. So that's probably where I'm going there.
Yep.
And then Fournette is just bad.
Yeah. 2-part trade contending, but didn't know when I made trades. PPR Superflex 12 team start 10 gave Brian Robinson 2 firsts and a second for CMC and Pitts, then traded CMC for Swift and a 2023 top 4 first. So what do we think? So let's just say, like you slightly upgrade. Can you see my feet?
No, I think you're good. I think your feet are out of the picture.
I
don't think your dogs are out right now.
I just saw that. I'm like, what? I can't see the camera from here, so
I'm I put those dogs away.
That's what I'm like. Yeah, do they show? Like,
no.
All right, funny. Chill. All right. So let's just say hypothetically, I get it. The 104 obviously over the 105/6, but I mean, realistically, for the ease of this trade, let's just say that cancels out. So Swift and Pitts for Robinson, a first and a second. Still give me the Swift and Pitts side there.
Yeah, I think
pretty easily Swift over Robinson and a 2024 first and second. I'd have Pitts for.
Yeah, it's definitely like good value though for the guy that gave it up. I don't think that's like a woodshed type of deal for you. You got the great pieces obviously, but not you didn't take them to the cleaners.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
He said the 2023 first top 4. What do we think?
Yeah, I actually sketched out because I know before the stream started, I saw my foot. I'm like, okay, make sure those are fucking low enough,
No, we ain't giving away free feet picks out here.
Yeah, I know you sick fucks are looking for a pick.
Yeah. So Brock says, so my team finishes 3rd in its pool. It would have gotten its payout before this week started. Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So if you finished in the top 3, I think top 3 teams, you just got a payout regardless for advancing, but you would have gotten that last week when your team advanced.
Yep.
Yeah, is I believe how it worked. And then if you advance again, then you get the payout at that point. So he said, it's Isaiah Likely and a 2023 first. Oh, I thought you just said a likely 2023 first.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely in the 2020 or Isaiah Likely in the 105 for the 104. Sure, that still cancels out.
It's whatever. It's Isaiah Likely. Yeah, he's looked okay, and he's okay. So we got L Hoves actually says he's joined the gauntlet with us. So perfect.
Speaking of the gauntlet, I mean the first overall pick, I'm gonna go with Josh Allen here. I kind of mentioned it, but I actually do think that the Chiefs get the 1 seed from the Bills, which you might be thinking, why would you want Josh Allen over Mahomes if that's the case? You want that extra week. You still know that they're the clear top 2 teams. And yeah, you're losing out on a potential home playoff game in the AFC Championship, but I'm willing to sacrifice that for 1 extra round of Josh Allen production.
Yeah, exactly. So are you on because we're drafting in week 16, we have to make some assumptions here, right? Yeah. You want to mix it up and make some different assumptions depending on the draft and how the board is falling. But generally speaking, you think that the Bills are going to get the 1 seed?
No, I think the Chiefs are.
Or sorry, yes. Generally speaking, you think the Chiefs are going to get the 1 seed because of the schedule that the Buffalo Bills have. They have to travel to Cincinnati in week 17, I believe it is, and then to New England, I believe, in week 18. And that could be a do or die situation for the Patriots, and they're not easy. As a defense, so they're not a pushover type of team. So there's definitely a possibility. The Chiefs play the Seahawks, they play the Raiders, I believe, and then they play the Broncos, the Broncos is the other team. So they're probably going to win out. Yeah. Is the point. The Seahawks are probably the best chance they have to lose a game, and it's at home for Kansas City. And the Seahawks haven't been playing very well lately. So I'm on the board. Finally, I don't get a 105 Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts usually falls to me at this point in the draft. So I'm actually going to go with Travis Kelce there at the 105.
Either of us are going to be right there. One of us is going to get the 1 seed, and one of us is going to get the 2 seed in that instance. You got Kelce. You're obviously hoping that the Chiefs potentially play on the wild card round. I got Josh Allen reverse. So either way, one of us is happy, I guess, right?
Yeah. Goonboy says I'm a sick man because I want to see some dogs. In one of my leagues, I was the top scorer, but did not make the playoffs. How can one improve their defense? You can't. It's fantasy football, my friend.
You just got to remember, brother. Offense wins games, defense wins championships. At the end of the day here, you got to step up your fantasy defense, show a little grit, maybe get the boys running some hills, whatever you have to do to tighten up that defense, you got to teach them how to do it. Let's be real.
Yeah, exactly. So It looks like we have a couple guys from the chat in the draft here, because Brock is picking at the 103, and Hoves is picking 106, the 1-2 turn there. So hopefully we can facilitate each other's draft strategies here. Hopefully,
You already know what I'm aiming for right now. If he falls,
you want Diggs, I'm assuming.
I mean, if he falls, I doubt he's gonna fall, but I mean, if you want to bless him, man.
I think what I'm gonna do is just make the conscious decision to go to the Cowboys Chiefs Super Bowl. So I will take Sedarian Lamb there. I'll leave Danny the opportunity that Stephon Diggs falls. I don't think he's going to end up falling, but.
Hey, Brock, be a real one.
Also, for what it's worth, I think this truck guy has been in literally.
Truck is in every one of our drafts.
We've been here since
20.
We've been here since like 1 o'clock in Buffalo, being able to draft teams.
Brock, bless me.
And I think this truck guy has literally been in every single draft that we've done. So I think for whatever reason, this guy just knows that we're drafting. Maybe he's getting all of his drafts out of the way too. So I have no idea, but this guy is constantly in our drafts right now.
Yo, respect, Brock. Appreciate you.
So, Brock, this guy's gonna snipe you though, man. He's gonna
Justin. Don't do it. He's got Mahomes.
Nah, he's taking him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Devastating.
Well, so I will, what? Typically in this spot, I would go with Pollard, but you went CD Lamb, so I will spice it up. I always go with the Cowboys because, I mean, why wouldn't I? Let's be real. If Chase had fallen, I would have gone with, no, I wouldn't have actually. They're both same conference. I'm a little bit struggling right now, but I think the proper play here, the smartest play would be going with Sanders and Devontae Smith. Again, I guess I have another Bills-Eagles texture, but sometimes you just got to play the board. Obviously, we're entering a ton of drafts, got our accounts loaded. We know that we're going to be entering 40 of these, give or take.
Yeah.
40, 50 of these. And at that type of volume, you can't really pick and choose in terms of what's going to be available to you. You have to more so just play the flow of the board.
And hope that you get 5 to 10 lucky entries that get you far.
100%.
Basically. But Hove said he's really struggling with how to structure these teams.
Well,
we'll definitely help you kind of walk through your team.
Yep.
So right now, I mean, you have the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles' best pass catching weapon. Those two teams are not likely to play each other at any point during
until
the
NFC Championship.
Right, but that's a good thing, right?
Yes.
You don't want to. The important thing is that you don't want to be stacking up players that are going to run into each other in, let's say, round 1 of the NFL playoffs by drafting, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Dallas Cowboys, because they're likely going to play each other. So I have to make a pick here.
Also, you can go Dak.
I was about to take Dak. Yeah.
You did get sniped a little bit on Pollard.
So Hoves, if you could do me an absolute favor and not take Juju here, that would be awesome. If I were in your spot, Hoves, I'd be taking Dalvin Cook for sure, because you already have Justin Jefferson. So that would make some sense. And then I would probably also take an AFC player, maybe like T. Higgins.
I was going to say maybe like a T. Higgins, try to build out your Bengals there. Obviously, your quarterback's going to have to be Kirk Cousins in that instance. So you do get Dalvin. That's a really good value on him.
You could go Gabe Davis too and build some
don't go Gabe Davis.
I mean, Danny doesn't want you to go Gabe Davis, and I don't want you to go Juju, but those two would all. I would go for an AFC player of some kind. T. Higgins would be the preferred pick for both of us.
Higgins is great. Higgins is a fantastic
T. Higgins
player.
is the best receiver for what it's worth of those players.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
Yeah. So definitely this draft is kind of shaken out the usual way, and Hoves just blesses it up. You love to see it. So I get Juju. So I'm
praying Gabe Davis falls.
The inherent upside, or the inherent bet that I'm making when I select some of these players. You got to remember, when you select CeeDee Lamb and Travis Kelce and Dak Prescott with your 3 first picks, those are the three of the best players on those teams. You're probably making the inherent bet that those guys are going to meet in the Super Bowl, because you have those players and, score a lot of fantasy points along the way. Ergo, if I have Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, I don't want to draft any Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
No.
Right? Because it's probably of any NFC
probably
and
a lock
AFC,
at this point.
It's probably a lock that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys are playing each other in the NFC playoffs in the first round. So it doesn't make any sense for me to draft a Tampa Bay Buccaneers player, because I'm going to lose that player the second the first round's over. You want the inherent upside of the chaos of the NFL kind of working its magic, and maybe you have 8 players going to the NFC Championship. That's the goal of these tournaments, because the best teams, the teams that won it last year, had 8, 9, 10 players in the Super Bowl.
Yep, 100%. So I'm here right now on the clock. Obviously, I have Josh Allen and a couple Eagles players. I knew Gabe Davis was going to be my first pick, but the second choice is really a decision. I have to play the ADP game and understand what's more likely to happen between Singletary and Goddard falling back. I do see that for the most part, people do have their running backs apart from Corey. So I will take the risk that Devin Singletary can potentially fall. Obviously, nobody else building out Bills the way I am. So just praying that he doesn't get sniped. And worst case scenario, I can pivot to a James Cook type.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Brock was saying, for the love of God, don't tell these motherfuckers.
Oh my God, I didn't.
So we were screwing up Brock's stack so that we didn't screw up our own stack, you know?
I'm sorry, Brock.
So Brock says, do y'all think the Dolphins and Bengals will meet? He said, I think the Dolphins will get the 5 seed.
I think the Dolphins will get the 7 seed.
It would be very difficult for the Dolphins to get the 5 seed because the Ravens and Bengals, one of those two teams is very likely to get the 5 seed because they are, I believe, 2 games up on the Dolphins. The Dolphins are 7-7 right now,
Bengals
right?
are 2 games up. The Ravens are 1 game up. The Dolphins are currently 8-6.
They're 8-6. Okay. But the Dolphins also play the Jets, the Patriots, and I think the Seahawks, one of their last games too. I actually have it pulled up on my spreadsheet.
It's a tough game. It is a tough game. I mean, you obviously have the tab, so you can check
Yeah, I can pull it up. And this is the spreadsheet. I don't know if you guys can see this. I don't think I'm sharing this at the moment, so I don't think they can see this. But
they play the Packers, the Jets, and the Patriots.
Yeah, all 3 of those teams are competing for a playoff spot. So none of those games are gimmies. Whereas, you have some of those other teams. I'm on the clock right now, so I'm absolutely trolling. Thankfully, Ezekiel Elliott's an easy pick for me to make because I have Cowboys players. So that was fast. But now, so you guys can see my team right there. I have 5 players. If the Bengals or the Cowboys and the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl together, I will have a full rosterable starting lineup. And at that point in time, I just got to hope and pray that those are the 5 highest scoring players from the game, and I'll be good to go. So that's basically, I've kind of built out the shell of my team so far. Now I kind of want to fill in some spots, some empty spots in case, let's say Kansas City has a first round bye and I don't have Kelsey and I don't have Juju in the first round of the playoffs, because remember, we still have to advance to the Super Bowl for that matchup. Because even though maybe I predict that it is Cowboys and Chiefs, and it is Cowboys and Chiefs, if I get bounced first round, it doesn't matter what I predicted.
Correct. So overall, I mean, the reason why I really like these type of builds where you're getting, again, one of the Chiefs or the Bills is going to be the 2 seed. You're hoping that the team that you select ends up actually being the 2 seed. So over there, I don't mind, I don't mind getting one of those guys. And then on the flip side, I mean, on the NFC, yes, the Eagles are the favorite. They are the 1 seed. I still do think, like I kind of mentioned, that it is a 3-horse type of race at the top. Obviously, with the Eagles being the favorites with the home field, you do give them the edge, especially given, the A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts, Devontae Smith, easy stackability. They're a very fun team to build. If you can overcome that first round, you're going to be set with them. However, I do really like still the San Francisco 49ers. I still do really like the Dallas Cowboys. I don't really see any team outside of those 3 that I mentioned being a serious threat to get out of the conference. So as a result, I'm going to gear a lot of my stacks towards that side of the NFC, towards those 3 teams in the NFC.
Yeah, and our blind spot there, of course, being the Minnesota Vikings, who currently hold the 2 seed. We're personally not
sold.
We're not sold on the Vikings. So that's an assumption that we're making. If you guys are sold on the Vikings, then by all means take up all the value. I think most of the market will be in line with what we believe is true about the Vikings, where they think that the best team in the NFC is the Eagles, then probably the Cowboys and 49ers, second and third, and then maybe the Vikings, the 4th best team, and then probably like the Buccaneers or maybe the Lions if they sneak in as like the next best teams, maybe the Giants, who I'm disrespecting also.
I mean, I think if the Giants make the playoffs, like, no offense if you're a Giants fan, I think they are probably the clear 7 in the conference.
No, they're probably
no. I'm saying in terms of like validity of getting out.
Yeah. They're definitely going to be the 6th seed by the looks of it. They're 1.5 games up on the Detroit Lions. They're 1 game up with a head-to-head tiebreaker on the Washington Commanders, who currently hold the 7 seed. Who we haven't even mentioned.
Derrick Henry, awesome.
Yikes.
Okay. Well, that kind of stinks, but
okay. So,
sure.
Brock, you said I think the Bills will be the 3 seed, and I have no Bills. So the Bills, they're very unlikely to be the 3 seed. They're most likely going to be the 1 or the 2 seed. They currently have the highest odds to get a bye. So they're actually the Vegas, odds would dictate that they're actually most likely to get the 1 seed rather than the 3 seed.
However, I do see the case, the way that happens. And again, it's still unlikely given that their schedule, they realistically are probably going to win. But the way that happens is if the Bengals win out, including a game against Buffalo, and obviously, again, if the Bengals win out and beat Buffalo, they'll have the head-to-head tiebreaker.
Right.
So that's the way that you get a Buffalo 3 seed. And I mean, as long as Buffalo's in the top 3 seeds, I have no issue. Yeah, if they play the Chiefs in the fucking, second round, that'll suck. But I don't really see them playing until the championship weekend.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things that you kind of have to work out. But it is possible that the Bills could be the 3 seed. I just personally think, given the odds and we're playing the odds at this point in time. Obviously, if you guys draft these teams in week 17 or week 18, you're going to know if the Bengals and Bills game ended with the Bills winning or the Bengals winning, and that's the benefit of drafting later versus us. We kind of have to make predictions, and we can get advantages as a result of that because we can get a discount on some of these players. Because the second, let's say, if the Chiefs secure a first round bye, their players are going to become less expensive because and less and more risky as a result, because people are going to then know that they don't have them through the first round. So us drafting early is kind of us, predicting ahead of time, and we're going to make some assumptions, obviously, that some of them are not going to be true.
No, exactly.
Yeah, and I would really, really appreciate it, Hoves, if you left me Isaiah McKenzie here. So what I did actually, if you guys can see my team construction here, I grabbed Devin Singletary as my second running back because
so you sniped me.
Yeah, sorry. He fell to me at a value, but the reason I did it was because if the Kansas City Chiefs are on bye, that means the Bills are not. So I'm, kind of taking the inherent assumption there, knowing that if I'm without my Kansas City Chiefs players and I'm at a disadvantage there, then at least I'll have the Buffalo Bills, who are still a very good team, can put up points, and they won't be on a bye if the Kansas City Chiefs are.
Yeah, my Bill stack is suffering.
Yeah, and I'm about to take Isaiah McKenzie to even top it off even more. So awesome. I actually really love, just from a pure, what teams I think are going to go far in the playoffs standpoint, I really love my team because I've stacked up Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, and Dalton Schultz, and CeeDee Lamb, 4 Dallas Cowboys, with 2 Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce and Juju Smith-Schuster, and then 2 Buffalo Bills, Devin Singletary and Isaiah McKenzie. I think if we all had to rank the best teams in the NFL outside of the Philadelphia Eagles right now, we'd probably have those teams at least all top 5. If not 2, 3, and 4.
So I'm back on the clock here. I'm going to get my my extra bill there. Obviously would have preferred, one of the other options, but I mean, Dawson Knox can catch a touchdown. I'm not too worried there. Now that I have so much implied value later rounds with Philadelphia and Buffalo potentially moving on, I'm going to get some immediate help. Monroe St. Brown, 8th round pick. I do think if they clinch the playoffs, he could potentially be a riser in terms of his value. Obviously, again, even if he's only playing one game, this is a legit player that can pop off for 20 plus half PPR points, which can help carry you towards the next rounds, where I have, of course, again, a Philadelphia team coming off a bye, a Buffalo team that, if they don't get the bye, is probably the next near lock, aside from maybe Kansas City, to make it to the second round.
Yeah, and also there's the inherent upside. Like you said, if Detroit does make the playoffs, their likely opponent is the Minnesota Vikings, who they just beat a couple of weeks ago. And Amon-Ra St. Brown would have then also, from a fantasy perspective, a very good matchup against an easy secondary too. So if you get 2 rounds out of Amon-Ra St. Brown, then that's a very good 9th or 8th round pick wherever you drafted him. I'm back on the board here. I am struggling because I'm running out of time here. I'm going to grab Kadarius Toney just because he plays for the Kansas City Chiefs and I don't have time to make a decision. So I grabbed Kadarius Toney there. So I have 3 Kansas City Chiefs and 4 Dallas Cowboys. So that's a 4-3. And then I have 2 Buffalo Bills as well. And I'll probably grab a one-off player just in case I need to cover my ass a little bit in the first round, in case I have some players on bye. And I'm probably going to grab a Jags player just because the Bills and the Chiefs are not likely to play against the Jags because they're the 4 seed, presumably if they win their division, and they would likely play whoever is the 2 or 3 seed, whether it's Cincinnati or Baltimore or potentially the Buffalo. I guess the Buffalo Bills could potentially play them too.
Also, Brock corrected himself. He says he thinks the Bills would be the 2 seed. I mean, I said the same thing.
Yeah, I think they're going to either be 1 or 2. That's basically. It's possible, like Danny said, that they're the 3 seed.
I don't think the Bengals could win out though. It's just going to be tough.
Exactly.
They could, but I mean, winning out at this current point, especially knowing that the bye is out of play, the only thing that would keep them in the potential contention is if the Ravens keep a foot. I just think it's more likely that the Ravens fizzle out without Lamar rather than, keeping their grasp, if you will, for Cincinnati in the division.
Yeah, agreed. So I'm actually going to I need another running back to build out. I typically don't love to do 2 running back builds. It's just a general rule, especially considering I have Devin Singletary, who could potentially have a bye in the first week. So I'm going to grab a 3rd running back. I'm going to grab Travis Etienne here. Like I said, the Jags wouldn't be likely to cross paths with the Bills or the Chiefs until at least the divisional round, if not the AFC Championship, if they somehow went on a magical run. And I think Brock actually asked the question, how many QBs would you draft typically? I would say as a general rule, you need to draft 2 quarterbacks if you draft Jalen Hurts for starters, because we know he's going to have a bye week, 99% chance that he has a bye week. So you have to draft the second quarterback if you draft Jalen Hurts. And I would say, generally speaking, I would draft the second quarterback if you draft Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen as well, because we don't know at this point in time if they're going to have a bye week. Again, you could always, this is the benefit of drafting early. You're taking a risk, but you could always draft just Josh Allen or just Patrick Mahomes and hope that they don't get the bye, hope that the other team gets it. But you could also, cover your own ass with a first round Lamar Jackson to cover yourself. Or maybe you go to the NFC side and you grab like a Tom Brady or a Dak Prescott or Justin Herbert on the AFC side or whatever the case is. So it really all depends. I would say as a general rule, I like to draft 2 QBs more often than not, just because I think it's, QB score the most fantasy points. Your goal is to advance to the second round with the most fantasy points. It doesn't matter how many, points come from which position. So even if you have 2 guys going in one round, you'll get a lot of points out of the quarterback position.
For sure. Tua Tagovailoa actually went undrafted in that draft, by the way. I was close to taking him. The problem that arose with what I did is I bet already, based off my construction, based off my wide receiver core, that the Bills would not get the bye week. I did not have enough players, if the Bills were to get the bye week, already having the Eagles, to field a full flexible team. However, because of that, Tua Tagovailoa fell at value. Typically speaking, if I built the team to the point where I had more flexible pieces to compete in week 1 in the wild card, I would have thought about potentially getting a Tua structure to cover my ass. However, because I know, if the Bills get the 1 seed, this team's done already, I chose instead to add to my arsenal, to add a flexible piece, like a guy like Josh Palmer, who we think that the Chargers are going to make the playoffs. Very easy schedule here on out, strong offense, and realistically, with the passing volume that we've seen from the Chargers from Justin Herbert, there's a really good chance that in a potential shootout against a team like maybe Cincinnati, maybe Baltimore, that Josh Palmer has a chance to score a touchdown, which could potentially advance my teams to, again, if Buffalo advances, if Philadelphia obviously having the bye, we get in the second round, that team now has way more upside moving forward, even if Josh Palmer doesn't advance past that first week.
Yeah, and again, I said it already. I'm going to continue to echo this sentiment. I think people that are following the structure of last year's winner and last year's winning teams, last year we had 2 4 seeds make the Super Bowl. Both 1 seeds were out in the divisional round. Ergo, people that invested in the Titans, people that invested in the Green Bay Packers, their teams were dead immediately. I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think the 1 seeds are far stronger this year than they were last year. And I think the challenging part, and the team that ends up winning this contest, is going to find a way to field a 5 or a 6-man roster with a Philadelphia Eagles, Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl, or Philadelphia Eagles, Buffalo Bills Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Something like that, or at least get one of those 1 seeds in. Maybe not both of them. Maybe it's like Chiefs and Cowboys, or maybe it's Bengals and Eagles or something like that.
49ers and Bills.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to get both 1 seeds eliminated in the divisional round. And not only that, a 4 seed go to the Super Bowl on each side, and a 6 seed like the 49ers make the NFC Championship on the NFC
You know
side.
what's going to be even crazier, though, this year?
What's that?
Like, we did see 2 4 seeds go to the Super Bowl last year. I mean, when we see a 5 seed do it this year, we can't be surprised. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I mean, so in terms of what you guys have probably seen us draft so far, I would say there's 3 teams that are kind of like dead spots for us. So for starters, I think both South divisions are dead spots.
Yes.
Like, we don't know for starters, we don't know who's going to win said division. So because we're drafting early, there's an inherent risk involved there, because the Buccaneers, Panthers, and hell, even the Falcons and Saints are still involved in that division race. So we don't even know for certain if the Buccaneers are going to make the playoffs altogether. And even if they do, they're going to sneak in as like an 8-9 team, a 7-10 team. How far are they really going to go against the Dallas Cowboys, who's their first round opponent, who probably have 11 or 12 or 13 wins?
Yeah.
So there's that, which is why the Buccaneers, even though I'm a Bucs fan, as you guys know, is difficult to invest in that team with a lot of confidence. Number 2, the Minnesota Vikings, we kind of keep just writing them off. We're just like, I don't think the Vikings are going to go that.
So.
Again, we could be wrong about that. That's just something that we believe about the Vikings. And same goes for the Tennessee Titans / Jacksonville Jaguars. We don't think, even if they make the playoffs, maybe we'll take some one-off ETNs, some one-off Kirks at the end of our drafts. I'm not taking much of Derrick Henry. I haven't drafted him once. You got autoed him, but I don't think you drafted him very much.
I got autoed him because I had Singletary in my queue.
Right. Especially knowing now that it doesn't look like Ryan Tannehill will play this week and potentially going forward for the rest of the season. So we got Malik Willis leading the Tennessee Titans for the rest of the year on a semi-difficult schedule that they have, playing against some tough teams. Even though the Houston Texans are bad, they've played the Cowboys and Chiefs very tough in consecutive weeks, and that's who the Titans are playing this week, potentially with Malik Willis. Like it's possible they just outright lose that game. The Jags take over the division if they beat the Jets on Thursday night,
which I do think they do.
Right. So those teams are kind of blind spots for me. Like my favorite sleeper teams, as we kind of talked about, the Detroit Lions. I think they have a legitimate. If we don't like the Vikings, we should like the Lions, right?
Yeah.
Or the Seahawks potentially if they sneak into the 17, or the Commanders if they sneak in.
And the other team I do like, again, the other team in the AFC side that realistically we've been fading probably relative to what we've seen would be the Baltimore Ravens. Again, Lamar Jackson has been hurt. There's questions at the quarterback position. We don't know. Maybe they fall to the 5 seed facing a hot Jacksonville Jaguars team. Obviously, their defense has been struggling in recent weeks. They don't have a lot of real weaponry on the outside in that offense.
Devin Duvernay just got ruled out for the next 2 months.
A team like the Jaguars, I actually think, has a really, really good shot at knocking the Baltimore Ravens off. So as a result, I mean, I'm going to be more heavy on Jacksonville Jaguars players. Yes, I get it. I just got autoed fucking Derrick Henry in that round, which still, I mean, even if the Titans play the Ravens, you can make the case that given their physicality, given their ability to control the game up front, they can upset the Ravens as well. So I think the Ravens are probably the most sketch team entering the playoffs given recent trends. So as a result, I will load up on a lot of Jacksonville Jaguars. And sometimes when I can get a guy like Derrick Henry as a one-off at value, again, his ADP is like 23, 24, which is really, really high for me, in my opinion. If he falls more so in that late 30 to mid 40 type of range, and I want to sprinkle in a couple texture spots, I will do so. Again, I still think the Jaguars are going to win that division, but in case I'm wrong, at least I'm doing so at extreme value.
Right. And I'm not getting too cute with my entries either. My exposures are Eagles, Bills, Chiefs, Bengals, Cowboys. Like I'm not getting cute and going, oh, the Seahawks are going to make a Cinderella run, or the Commanders are going to sneak in and make a Cinderella run. I might mix in a couple of those teams, but probably more so with like the Chargers, Lions, and Dolphins, I would say are the 3 teams.
Chargers are the one that stick out.
And maybe the Jaguars too, but that's about it. I'm probably not going to mess around and mix in like a bucket. Like, even though I'm a Bucs fan, I'm not going to mix in like a bunch of Buccaneer stacks thinking that they're going to make a run, because even if they get past the Dallas Cowboys in the first round, if the 49ers and Vikings both win, that means they're playing the Eagles in round 2. And I don't think they're probably going to beat both the Cowboys and Eagles on route.
That would be a really,
that'd be a really it's Tom Brady. You never know, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
If we think about it from a reasonable perspective, right? Like, and again, like you got to take your chances. You got to get your textures. Even if like, you know, the Bucs start looking really good entering the offseason or the postseason, and Tom Brady looks like he's back and the weapons are getting fully healthy, like that is still by far, in my opinion, the toughest path to the Super Bowl. Reason being, you're probably going to play the Cowboys in the first round. You're almost certain to play the Cowboys in the first round.
Mathematically, you're likely to play the
Philadelphia Eagles in the second round. And then you're probably playing a scorching hot 49ers team, in my opinion, that have won their last 2 games against probably Minnesota and probably against the New York Giants. So that's tough. I think those are the top 3 teams in the NFC. Beating all 3 of them en route to the Super Bowl. Tom Brady's a GOAT. I'm not going to rule anything out, but I mean, that is probably the toughest path to a Super Bowl I have heard of.
Well, I mean, in 2020, we did beat Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl run that we had in 2020, but this is not the same team that we had in 2020. So I'm not going to compare us to that team, but I will mix in, you know, occasionally Tampa Bay Buccaneers things because, you know, it's Tom Brady. So you never know.
Yeah, gotta give him his respect.
That guy, you know, that guy has wolf's blood or whatever. So we're probably going to run one more of these, and then we'll probably head off of here. If you want to keep joining, Brock says he has no idea what the hell he's doing in these drafts. Again, we have this spreadsheet available. I will finish it tonight and throw it up in the pinned comment of this video so you guys can download it. What's going on?
Did our midden just get autoed?
Wait, what?
Did our midden get autoed?
No way. No.
Are you sure?
I don't think so. So what Danny's referring to is we entered one of the... Oh, Jesus Christ.
Our midden got auto, bro.
Yikes. Okay, we entered a big mint and it got autoed. That is big bad. That is big, big bad. So that is a $250 entry that me and Danny just got auto drafted. Oh, man.
On the bright side, at least my team looks like I'm in cash.
Yeah, I mean, I got Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Tony Pollard. Okay, so what do we got?
There's no way.
Can we field the starting roster in this? This is brutal. Oh, this is a bad one, too.
Oh, my God. I'm so
yikes,
sick.
Bro, I'm sick.
Oh, my God. There's no way that happens while we're live. We just got autoed a $250 buy-in. For those that are unfamiliar with what is just going on, I mean, we may as well show the teams now, I guess.
Yeah, well, I'll show. How did that get autoed that quick?
Where was my notification?
That's insane. So we got
what?
okay.
How did it just start?
So I'll view the full draft here.
Oh my.
Okay, so Danny picked Jalen Hurts. At least,
At
I mean, you got the Jalen Hurts,
Yeah.
AJ Brown stack there, but then it gave you a bunch of Cowboys.
Zeke and Dak.
Yeah, dude, if we win with one of these entries, I will laugh my ass off.
There's no way we win. We have no correlation.
I don't even think, like, how would I even roster something in the Super Bowl here? So I got Allen. Okay, I got Allen, Lamb, Pollard, and Singletary.
And I have Dak and Zeke.
So my absolute best case scenario is I have 4 players in the Super Bowl.
My best case scenario is, oh my God, what the fuck? I have two separate 2 stacks of NFC teams. What? 3 separate 2 stacks. Sorry. The Hawkinson and Thielen. I have AJ Brown and Hurts. And then I have Dak and Zeke. With a random Pacheco, a random James Cook, and a random Keenan Allen and Tyreek Hill.
Yikes.
Oh my, I'm actually sick to my stomach.
How did that fill up so fast? So me, for what it's worth, me and Danny entered this draft and we're like, oh, maybe it'll like fill tomorrow morning. And then it filled tonight and we're just getting screwed out of it. So you hate to see that.
F's in the chat.
F's in the chat, big time. Probably just torch $250. But we're gonna enter one more gauntlet to shake off the rust.
You know what's the worst part?
What's up?
We're in the same draft. So literally only one of us can make our money back.
Yikes.
Dude, I refreshed my gauntlet teams to see, okay, how many have I drafted? And I see that the big mitten was drafted. I'm like, wait, what?
Dude, and the other thing too is that if we knew it was being drafted, that would have made for some great content. A $250 draft that we were doing live.
Where was the notification? That's what I'm confused about.
All right, I'm entering a regular gauntlet. Join up the regular gauntlet.
Yeah, oh, okay.
We'll get it going. That's hilarious. Though. I'm not even mad. I think that's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
All right. So Canal says, "What's up, boys? Game away from the championship. Thoughts on benching Watson for Minshew, Pickett, Purdy, or Zach Wilson?" I'm okay doing it for Purdy, but that's it.
Same.
I'm probably not going to mess around with any of those other guys. Watson's got a relatively easy matchup to begin with as well, but I'm probably going to go with Purdy there.
I'm stunned right now.
All right, so we're waiting for 2 more. Brock,
yeah.
Some of you guys want to hop in at the last second there. You can go ahead and do so.
I'm going to tell the group chat what just happened. Oh my God, that's crazy.
All right, so we're waiting for 2 people to join up into the draft, and then we'll be good to go. Yeah, hopefully we can crack it a min cash.
Yeah, only one of us can.
Yeah, true.
That is crazy.
Maybe some chaos happens. Maybe the Titans get into the playoffs and Mike Derrick Henry's shares stay alive.
I mean, one of us has a chance at least, but I mean, okay. The only way we can profit realistically is if one of us somehow gets to the NFC or the championship rounds.
Yeah,
because technically speaking, you only get $400 for advancing, and we pay $250 each. So even if one of us advances from our out of 6 pool,
do you get a min cash for advancing out of the wild card? Because in the gauntlets, I think you need to make the championship game to even min cash.
You get $400 for advancing out of the
wild card.
400
out of the divisional or out of the wild card?
Out of the wild card.
Okay, so that's not bad. At least you get something then. We're hoping for a min cash. We never want to play for min cashes during these tournaments, but when you auto draft the team, maybe you do.
That's so crazy.
Yeah,
oh, Ron's in this.
What's going on?
Ron's in this.
Oh, is he actually?
Yeah, look at the draft.
Oh, shout out to Ron. You're welcome for the easy fucking players that we got.
No, he's in this one that we're in right now.
Oh, okay, that's dope.
Yeah, get the. This guy know we're streaming?
Yeah, tell him we're streaming. Send him the link.
I bet. Here. We're gonna tell him that we fucking auto drafted a big mitten.
All right. We're going back to the Jalen Hurts well because that's who I just draft all the time. Should I mix it up and grab McCaffrey here? I have so much Jalen Hurts.
Your call.
I don't care. I'm taking more Jalen Hurts. Don't care. Still taking more Jalen Hurts. So LOL Hove says, so with Gauntlet, you stack wide receivers / running backs from the same team. So what you want to take into account is that during the Super Bowl, ideally, you want to be able to field at least a full roster, if not more. So the starting roster is 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, and a flex. So, or tight ends. And if you can, predict the Super Bowl matchup, let's say you think it's going to be Kansas City Chiefs versus San Francisco 49ers, you want at least 5 players from either of those 2 teams, if not more than that. And again, you want to take into account how many bye weeks you're going to have early on, who's going to have 1 seeds and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of strategy that goes into it, especially when you're drafting in week 16. If you guys are confused as hell right now, I would suggest waiting till week 17 or week 18 when we know more clarity about where the playoff pictures are going to be. But for the most part, I think you do get an edge if you don't auto draft at this point in time.
I'm sorry. I keep thinking about how we auto drafted a big mid.
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so I'm going to get AJ Brown here with my next pick because I did take Jalen Hurts with my first one there.
By the way, for those of you unfamiliar with my turn there, I went with CeeDee Lamb and Stephon Diggs, potentially backdooring a Cowboys-Bills potential Super Bowl there.
Yeah, not
Have
bad.
I gone Bills every single draft?
It seems like it.
Fuck, eh?
Definitely. So I got AJ Brown to fall to me. Pretty easy. Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, quick start there. Obviously, with a Eagles start, we know they're going to have the 1 seed with relative certainty. And then I'm going to have to stack up more Dolphins, Chargers, Jaguars, teams that are going to play in the first round wild cards.
On the bright side, too, at least one of us has a good chance at making it to the NFC Championship because we're going to be playing against each other in the second round potentially.
Yeah, true. So I don't know what I'm doing, avoiding the $25 buy-ins. Yeah, I would say get your practice in the mittens if you got the time. Obviously, you guys aren't in Buffalo or don't have to drive, hours to go actually do the draft. So if you're in a state where you can play Underdog, obviously, then you can just do them at your own leisure and you don't have to spam like 20 drafts like we've done today. So that's definitely the benefit of that. Gabe Davis, Tony Pollard go off the board. Devontae Smith did not fall to me, but Miles Sanders did, which is interesting. The one thing that's kind of interesting to me
Gabe
also, you don't have a Bengal, do you?
Oh, Pollard went too. Damn it!
You don't have a Bengal, do you?
No, I got Bills and Cowboys.
I'm gonna take Burrow here because I have Hurts and I need a quarterback for the first round. And I think a naked Burrow in the first round is also kind of interesting. Again, you don't necessarily need to go 2 quarterbacks this early the way I did it with Burrow and with Hurts. But the fact that I got, a guy to slide to me at 80, at a value at ADP, 4 picks behind his ADP, I think is worth a shot. I don't think a lot of teams are going to have a lot of Hurts Burrow correlation there.
Gabe Davis just went 13th overall.
Apparently.
Fair play. Also, Hobbs, 2 Cowboys are going off the board here, so it's going to be tough for you to build out that Cowboy stack, brother.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. So, okay, I got Eagles and Bengals right now. Hopefully I can get Higgins to slide to me with my next pick.
I'm going Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott here.
Or maybe Mixon or Sanders. So I got some running backs that I need to wait on here. So hopefully Ron doesn't take my boys here. Ron goes with Kirk Cousins, grabbing the Justin Jefferson correlation right away. T. Higgins right off the board, sniped 1 pick ahead of me. I'm going to grab Joe Mixon. Because I have pass catching options that I could stack Hurts with if I miss out on Miles Sanders. I can grab Dallas Goedert later on, so I'm not in the worst spot there. Hopefully Sanders does fall to me with my next pick, but not the worst thing in the world if he doesn't.
Yep.
Okay, so back to the comments here while we're still caught up. If you guys have any comments, again, Dynasty, Redraft, Best Ball, whatever the case is, leave them down below. We will get to them as soon as we can. Again, there's a lot of, discourse around like the Dolphins in these drafts because we know if the Dolphins make a run, their offense is heavily concentrated. We know Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle get most of the targets. We know Raheem Mostert, Jeff Wilson get most of the carries, and Tua Tagovailoa, obviously the architect of it all. They're very interesting because if they can go on a run, they're probably going to pay off big time from like a fantasy production standpoint. But it's tough knowing that they're likely to be the 7 seed. Ergo, they're going to play one of the Kansas City Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills, depending on whoever gets the 1 seed. So not a great situation overall for those guys. But if they're able to squeak it out, or maybe they somehow squeak into the 6 seed and avoid those powerhouse teams, play the Bengals, the Ravens, who would be the projected 3 seed in that situation, that would obviously help a ton as well. I'm getting a lot of Jalen Waddle just because I'm drafting a lot of Eagles and I need first round production, and Jalen Waddle is a very easy guy to go to.
There's one name that is sticking out for you because obviously you have this guy just read.
Yeah, Hoves, do me a Lordy's thing here and don't take Miles Sanders.
Is MTM just taking all the Bills way ahead of ADP, bro? What is this?
Yeah, so I'm gonna look at Hove's team here and kind of critique it here. So he's
MTM
got.
Holt.
It looks like Hove's has taken a little Cowboys Chiefs, or maybe a Cowboy or Chiefs 49ers. I think that
looks
makes
like
some
with
sense
me
there.
going with the Cowboys, I think he pivoted towards the Niners, which is still a lot of value there too, with Brandon Ayuk potentially getting one of those cuff running backs to counteract those CMC teams. So I actually don't mind that at all. Miles Sanders falling to you at 27 is pretty ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, Tyreek was there as well, who's pick 14.9 in
Ron sniping
ADP.
me 100% if he falls.
I think this guy's probably going to take Hill.
No,
he went Ayuk.
Yeah,
Ron's going to take.
taking,
He's going to take Tyreek for sure.
100%.
Too big of a value not to.
I think I'm actually going to go with Eckler if he goes with Tyreek. Could potentially backdoor a Bills versus Chargers Super Bowl, which would be very nice.
Yeah,
he goes with Tyreek Hill. I think I'm actually going to go with I know Devin Singletary would be the chalk play, but I do have a lot of Bills Cowboys Super Bowl correlations. I'm going to, take a little detour here. Go with Austin Eckler and with where is he? Keenan Allen. I haven't really built out much Chargers Cowboys, but the Chargers are the type of team that if you're going to bet on an underdog from the AFC, they can make a run. Superstar quarterback, high-powered offense, a lot of offensive firepower, a lot of volume there. So I don't mind taking the stance there on a fascinating Chargers team.
Yeah, so on the board for me right now, it's not looking too great in terms of the teams that I'm trying to stack. There's no real Bengals worth of value at this point in time. I'm not going to reach on a guy like Tyler Boyd quite yet. He will be definitely somebody I keep into consideration. The other thing too is that I probably want to avoid, maybe not avoid, but like steer clear of Kansas City Chiefs and Buffalo Bills players because I have Philadelphia Eagles players who we know are going to be on bye almost guaranteed. So I need to fill out my wide receiver core with some guys with some immediate production. As I kind of already talked about, I get a ton of Jalen Waddle because I know Jalen Waddle, if they're the 7 seed or whatever, they're probably going to score points against the Buffalo Bills or the Kansas City Chiefs in the first round of the playoffs. Because I have Philadelphia Eagles players, I need those points to be able to advance beyond the first round.
Yep.
So Jalen Waddle is a guy that I've drafted quite a lot of. I think I have him like 40%, if not more than that so far in the drafts that we've done, because he just makes so much sense in this kind of build because he's going to get that first round production that I need.
Yep. 100%.
Even if I only get that 1 round production out of him, if I go into the divisional round playoff with 7 or 8 players left, but Jalen Waddle give me 20 points in the first round, I'm happy with that pick.
Yeah, no, 100% agreed with you there. Especially 6th round Jalen Waddle, that level of upside for a team that still has upside to make it past.
Yeah, and who knows if they upset the Kansas City Chiefs, if they upset the Buffalo Bills, or if the seeding works out where they're playing the Bengals or the Ravens in the first round. Yeah, and that obviously would prove to be a great pick.
Absolutely. I mean, I could get a second bill if Singletary does fall back. Kind of looking at that. Not that I'm saying that he's absolutely not going to fall back, but you never know.
Yeah.
Ken Walker in 36th. Wow.
Yeah.
This guy does not care about ADP. He has reached on every single one of his picks by ADP. I don't consider Josh Allen a reach, but technically his ADP is 1.5, and he picked them at 1. So
definitely a big reach there.
Big reach. The biggest reach of the whole team.
Yeah, exactly. So Kenneth Walker, wow. Again, if you're gonna, I don't hate this rationale because if you predict that the Bill or the Seahawks are going to go on a Super Bowl run, you're going to need to draft a couple Seahawks, right? So if you get Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf and Lockett or whatever, then it makes sense. But I just personally don't think
the problem with doing that though is guess what? You're taking Kenneth Walker 36th overall, 606 in the draft. If you have a strong stance that the Seahawks are going to make it far, don't take them 4 rounds ahead of ADP. Take them where other people in the draft are getting them. Because now guess what? Your 10th round pick has to outproduce their 6th round pick by comparative opportunity cost.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, losing Gallup stinks there. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
I'm thinking, I'm thinking first round, I need points to supplement this Philadelphia Eagles production. I know if the Giants were to beat the San Francisco 49ers, they're likely playing the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm only getting 2 weeks out of Saquon Barkley. But again, first and foremost, I got to get out of the wild card round. I can't use my Philadelphia Eagles, even if they make the Super Bowl, if I don't get out of the wild card round. So I'm going with Saquon Barkley there. He's an elite workhorse running back. He playing against the 49ers, hopefully the Vikings, if the seeding works out that way. And he could have a big game, long run, couple touchdowns, whatever the case is. And that pick could prove to be very effective for me, even if the Giants get bounced in the first round. If I get 20 points, like I said, out of Saquon Barkley, same with Jalen Waddle, then that was a worthwhile pick to get my Eagles advance.
Yep, absolutely. So on this turn here, I'm going to keep adding to my texture Dalton Schultz and Mike Williams. Again, I already made the bet for the most part that it's going to be a Cowboys versus Chargers Super Bowl. Dak Prescott, Ezekiel Elliott, CeeDee Lamb, and Dalton Schultz giving me 4 Cowboys. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, and Austin Eckler giving me 3 Chargers. So I have my nucleus, my 7 guys that I am basing this team on making it the whole distance. Now I gear my team. Stephon Diggs, obviously being a luxury one-off type of player because he can make the AFC Championship. He could potentially play against the Chargers in the AFC Championship, giving me 3 usable elite talent type of weeks. And then obviously with these 2 last dart throws in the 9th and 10th round, I can more so, again, gear my picks towards potential production now versus worrying about, who's going to make the Super Bowl. Because in this situation, in this circumstance, I already predicted that to be the Chargers versus the Cowboys.
Yeah, exactly. I grabbed Tyler Boyd with my pick there. I needed another Bengal. I have Burrow, Mixon, Boyd. I got 3 Bengals. I got Hurts, Sanders, A.J. Brown. That's 3 Eagles. If I get an Eagles versus Bengals Super Bowl, that's 6 players in the Super Bowl. And I'm using guys like Saquon Barkley, guys like guys like Jalen Waddle, to help myself advance myself to the Super Bowl. And also the Bengals are very unlikely to get a bye as well. So the Mixon, Joe Burrow is my second quarterback while Jalen Hurts is on bye. And then Tyler Boyd, those guys can put up first round wildcard points as well. And I'm hoping Chris Godwin slides to me with this last pick because one of the textures that I've been kind of experimenting with is Buccaneers versus Eagles in the NFC Championship, because if the Cowboys do a classic Cowboys thing, Danny, and choke away their projected favorite against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers then would not play the Philadelphia Eagles until the NFC Championship unless we saw an upset against a team like the Vikings or the 49ers.
You guys would actually play them in the second round.
Sorry. We would need one of the 49ers or Vikings to get upset. And as we kind of already talked about, we're not that in on the Vikings.
I think the Lions can win that.
The Seahawks or whatever could beat the Vikings in the second round. Or who knows, maybe the Giants upset the 49ers. A lot would have to break, right? But that's kind of what we're playing for, right? We're playing for the high-end range of outcomes. There's a way in which it happens. The problem you run into is if there's no possible way it happens, right?
Yeah, we got a super chat here from Thomas. Appreciate that. He says Danny Dimes or Jared Goff. I will go with Danny Dimes going up against the Minnesota Vikings this week. High implied over-under in that game. Giants fighting for that playoff life. I mean, you could say the same thing with the Lions. I just prefer the matchup against a Vikings defense that's been one of the worst in the entire NFL since week 10. And in terms of the other question, give me Garrett Wilson over J.K. Dobbins, despite the good matchup for Dobbins this week. Appreciate the super chat there.
Yeah, I'm on board with the same 2 picks there. Canal also says pick 3 Ayuk, Gabe Davis, Singletary, James Cook, Garrett Wilson. With that question, I will go Ayuk, Garrett Wilson, and the running back situation in Buffalo is a little bit sketchy. So I think I might just go Gabe Davis and shoot for the upside there. And then on your other question here, he says Cleveland, Dallas, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Kansas City defenses. Off the top of my head, I got to remember who all these teams are playing because we haven't totally dug into this week's slate. Dallas, who are you playing this week?
Dallas Cowboys?
Yeah.
We're playing Philadelphia.
Okay, so you got Gardner Minshew. Are you at home or on the road?
At home.
That might be a good option there. The Cincinnati Bengals are on the road against the Patriots. Not the greatest matchup. I think the Dallas Cowboys are probably the option I would go with there. They're just probably the best overall defense. Yep. I'm on the clock with my final pick. I probably need one more wide receiver. And like I said, because I'm making this kind of inherent upside play of if the Buccaneers make it to the NFC Championship against the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm actually going to grab Mike Evans with my last pick here. So I got Evans and Godwin in case the Buccaneers, and maybe, who knows, maybe they just make it out of the first round, right? Maybe they just beat the Cowboys. They play the Eagles in the second round. You still get 2 weeks, usable weeks out of those Buccaneers players. And if they get you to the NFC Championship, then you still have your Eagles players. You still have your Bengals players, presumably on the AFC side. And maybe the Giants are who the fucking Eagles are playing in the NFC Championship.
And side note, no, we are not psychotic enough to take anyone off Carolina Panthers. So
no, we are not. That would be hilarious.
You want to do one more? Or are you trying to get off?
I think we should probably head off here. We've been on here for an hour and a half. We got auto drafted a $250 draft, so we're a little bit salty at the moment.
Yeah, a little bit.
Brock says, I like the idea of going in on 1 seeds and then taking the Dolphins or Ravens guys later on to help you advance in the wild card. Yeah. I mean, Dolphins, Ravens, Chargers, Lions, Buccaneers, even potentially. Those teams, like ideally you want Cowboys, Bengals, and like some of the other teams that could make a deeper run. But unfortunately, ADP doesn't work out that way. You're not going to get a Bills Eagles Super Bowl with Bengals and Cowboys in the first couple rounds. That's just not going to happen. Those players go too high. So you got to figure out a way to get that easy production from, maybe a one-off Christian Kirk or a one-off Travis Etienne or a Chris Godwin or a Mike Evans or a Jalen Waddle, like I said. So definitely a balancing act there. 10th round Daniel Jones for some teams that you take on Hurts. See, the tough thing is
they're going to play second round.
Exactly. That's the tough thing about Daniel Jones. If you're going to take a one-off quarterback to replace Jalen Hurts in the first round, ideally you take an AFC quarterback, because then there's no chance that they're going to play each other in the second round. And there's also the inherent possibility that you have 2 starting quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, right? So if you take Jalen Hurts, ideally you stack him with Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow or Tua Tagovailoa.
Maybe if you believe that the Ravens can get a run if Lamar Jackson comes back,
right,
that makes sense. But
maybe Trevor Lawrence, if you want to take a shot on him. That would be what I would do initially. And then if you go with an NFC team, I would say go with a division winner so that they're less likely to play the Eagles. Maybe a Tom Brady, maybe a Brock Purdy, maybe a Kirk Cousins or somebody like that. But I would steer clear, if it's Jalen Hurts that we're using as the example, I would steer clear of Dak Prescott because they're likely to play each other in the second round, very likely. And then I would also steer clear of Daniel Jones, because if they advance, they'd be likely to play Jalen Hurts in the second round. And then also Detroit Lions, quarterback Jared Goff, or Geno Smith or Washington Commanders, whoever the 7th seed ends up being as well. So a lot of strategy involved. Again, it is possible that even if you went Daniel Jones and he has the biggest game of any of the quarterbacks in the first week, but still loses, then that could, serve to benefit you because it could advance you. And then let's say Jalen Hurts is the QB1 for the rest of the playoffs. But that's like a very unique circumstance where you're probably kind of being a little galaxy brain there.
Yep, 100%. But either way, we've been on for about an hour and a half now, an hour 25 just on the dot. Appreciate you guys for continuing the support over here on the channel. Ripped off, 3-4 drafts for you guys?
I mean, technically 4 because we auto-drafted one of them. But yes, 3 drafts that we ripped off. One, the most expensive, was the 4th. We actually have one question here from our Gravy Super Chat. Half PPR, D-Hop over Bam, Dion, DPJ. Yes, you are playing DeAndre Hopkins over all of these players. Like I said, if you guys are just joining this, if you are watching this after the fact and you didn't hear the announcement throughout, if you are not a member on UnderdogFantasy.com already, there's plenty of states that you can play it with. We are in Buffalo right now. If you guys are in New York, you can play it for sure. Then you can be eligible for a giveaway. If you haven't already signed up using the promo code FSE, you get 100% back on whatever you put in. So if you put in $50 to do 2 of these gauntlet drafts, you'll be rewarded with $100 on site to play with for using our promo code. And as a result of using our promo code, we are running a special giveaway from Tuesday. Anybody that signs up from Tuesday, which was yesterday, to Sunday, which is, Christmas Day, we will be running a special giveaway, giving away 5 $50 on-site credits to Underdog Fantasy for anybody that uses our promo code. We are not a big YouTube channel. We are not the fantasy footballers or, whatever. So there's not going to be a lot of you guys that sign up. So simply by you signing up, you have a 50% chance, maybe 60, 70% chance of actually
winning.
Really
good chance.
Very good chance of winning. I believe last time we ran a giveaway, we had like 17, 18 people that signed up, and that was peak August, peak season. It slowed down a little bit views-wise for us, so I'm assuming a lot of you guys that are watching this are diehard, players, and if you just had your playoff hopes torn from you in your home league, this is the great opportunity to get yourself more fantasy action, get yourself a rooting interest in the fantasy or in the NFL playoffs if your team didn't make it, or maybe outside of your favorite team or whatever. So definitely check that out. All the details will be down below in the description. All the details are in the pinned comment of the playoff best ball strategy video that I did on earlier today. And then also that spreadsheet that I talked about throughout that video. I will finish that as soon as I'm done on here, and then I'll upload that to the Patreon. That will be free to view. So if you guys are doing these playoff best ball drafts, you do not need to be a member of our Patreon. I will put that up for free for you guys to use. And basically what it is, I'll actually just show you guys real quick so you know what I'm talking about. So real quick, I'll go to entire screen. Okay, so I'll share my entire screen here, and I will go to this spreadsheet that I have. So basically in this spreadsheet, you can see playoff best ball strategy. We have some of the teams that are very safe to invest in, the teams that have already made the playoffs. Then we have the teams that are in the hunt, but very likely to make the playoffs. Also probably pretty safe to invest in. Then we have the biggest playoff question marks, maybe some teams to avoid if you're drafting at this point, current point in time. And I will update this weekly so that we know whenever you're drafting, when you can actually make these decisions. And then some of these dark horse teams, and I've labeled them, should you invest in them? Should you not invest in them based on their playoff schedule, based on the rest of the teams that they play throughout the year? Their implied odds via FanDuel Sportsbook is also listed there as well. And then I also ranked the most likely NFC and AFC seeds that we're going to know about. Like I said, the Eagles are the most likely NFC seed that we know about, being the 1 seed, because they have a 99% chance at the bye, give or take. And I kind of rank them going forward. And I also have team by team strategy here. So for example, if you draft Philadelphia Eagles players, you can see likely seed 1 in the AFC, 99% chance at the bye. They have already clinched a playoff spot, about to clinch the NFC East if they either win this week or the Cowboys tie them, or they win in 2 weeks, or whatever the case is. And then you can see some of the teams that you want to stack them with: AFC Super Bowl contenders, and then teams to avoid stacking with: NFC wildcard teams, because they'd be likely to play them in round 2. And same goes for intra-conference teams to stack with. You could stack them with division winners like the Vikings, 49ers, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because they're not likely to play them in the second round either. And then I also list a contrarian stack for each one if you guys want to get very unique. Like I said, the Eagles, Tampa Bay NFC Championship is the contrarian stack that I personally like for that as well. So that is what we got going. Like I said, thank you guys for joining us. We are still live from Buffalo. If you guys have any questions for your week 16 matchups heading into your fantasy football playoffs, reach out to us on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. And yes, technically, LOL Hoves,
that's prohibited,
but it is monitored by Underdog Fantasy.
Yeah.
So if they see something egregious, if they see you take an MVS at first overall or something, they will flag that. But technically, yes, you could enter drafts and guide each other's stacks, but not necessarily.
Like, for example, when we're doing the drafts on the live and some of you join, like, we're not altering our strategy just because you guys are in it. We're still drafting our teams to try to beat everybody in the pool. So when you're doing that, again, don't just queue with your friends to try to, rig your teams, like drafting Reggie Gilliam first overall, Marcus Valdes-Scantling in the second. No, like, play it, like, just draft honest. People are going to monitor it. If you're trying to win it the right way is how I would describe it.
Yeah. But definitely a lot of fun, as you guys saw. Again, go back and rewatch this. You'll hear a lot of strategy nuggets. Check out the video that I did earlier today. I broke it down a little bit more in depth. And also, doing these is the best practice. So if you don't want to do the gauntlets quite yet, because they're $25 entries, do a bunch of mitten drafts, experiment with some things, and then maybe go into the $25 entry draft. So again, appreciate you guys for joining us. Stay tuned. Today is Wednesday as we're doing this live stream right now. Tomorrow is Thursday. We're going to be driving home. Friday at the very latest, Friday morning or so, we'll have like the wide receiver rankings for you guys for week 16 matchups for your fantasy football playoffs. And then the running back rankings will probably either double upload them Friday, maybe upload them one late on Thursday and one Friday, whatever the case is. You guys will still get your rankings videos that you need. And of course, Saturday is Christmas Eve. So we will not be live because it is a holiday, but we will have our weekly rankings available for free. And those will be fully up to date. So if you guys are unaware, Saturday is actually the day this year that all the games are being played in week 16, like the Red Zone channel and all that kind of stuff. So Saturday is the big day for football. So make sure your lineups are set. We'll have our weekly rankings free for you guys to view and all that good stuff. So again, thank you guys for joining us. Peace out, and we will talk to you soon.
Yep.